Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Buenas, this is Cisco Gallardo with the Healing Generations podcast, Yelder edition. I want to say what's up to all the gente. Thank you for tuning in. I want to remind you, if you haven't already, please share the podcast, review it, like it, follow it, whatever podcast platform you're on, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Apple, whatever you listen to the podcast, please write a review. And, add some positive feedback, so other people can find the podcast. I just wanted to say that much. As you know, as we get started, we always have to give and invite our ancestors into the space, so they can guide us, help us out, and remember. So if you could close your eyes, maybe, and I want you to think about facing the east, and in that east direction, we want to think of our grandfathers, our fathers, our sons, our tios, our homies, our coworkers, those young men out there. We want to think about them and all that they bring to our lives, what they bring to the community, the joys, the pain, all that. We want to remember them in that way. Even our hood dads, our hood uncles, the veteranos too. We want to remember them in a good way and bring them into this space. And then as we turn to the west, in that middle space there, we have our relatives, the LGBTQ relatives. We want to give them their own space because they face a lot. We want to make sure that we recognize them and all the beauty and blessings they bring and the struggles that they have too. As we face the west, we think of all the women in our lives, our grandmothers, our mothers, our daughters, our tias, our hood tias, our partners. We want to think about them in a good way. We want to bring them into the space, all the blessings that they provide, the nurturing, just the love, and the pain that they go through too. Whatever they bring, we want all of that. We want to remind ourselves of the struggles that they have and the blessings. And then we turn around to our left and we face the north, the direction of our ancestors, those that lived before us, those that struggled on our behalf, they fought in the movements for civil rights, for human rights. We want to think about them, because through them, our people are allowed to go to college, are allowed to do certain things that we were not allowed to. We still have a lot more to fight about, a lot to struggle with. But we want to remember those ancestors. And also, this is the direction of the elders, too. There's a lot of our elders out there that struggle. They don't have enough money. They worry about food. They're worried about heat, about air conditioning, all these different things, I want them to also have a good blessing too. Bring them into the room, the struggles that they have. And I want to remind you to say hi to our elders. When you see them, recognize them, acknowledge them, the wisdom that they carry, Not all older people are elders, but believe me, they still have people connected to them who love them and care about them. We should treat them with respect. And then as we go left again to our future generations, the kids, the babies that are not even born, those babies that were born just today, we want to remember them as they become toddlers in elementary school, and then they go to middle school and high school. We want to think about each of those young people, even our young people that are struggling right now in group homes and in facilities and all that. They're still kids. We want to show them love and acknowledge them and all the beauty that they bring and also the struggles that they have too. We got to remember that a lot of us are here to change those things, to do our best. And then also I want to recognize the sun. What the sun represents is that light. Martin Luther King, one of his famous quotes, he talks about the only thing that could take the darkness away is the light. And that sun represents that for us, that hope, Tonantiu, we call it. And then we touch the earth and just remember how we're grounded to the earth, how we're grounded to the blessings of Mother Earth, the water, the air, all these things that we take for granted. We want to remember her and acknowledge that, we have to do our best to take care of her. And then in the middle, we have just creation, just life, and the miracle of life. Even if you don't believe in God per se, you have to believe in the miracle of life and just how beautiful that is, and that it's such a blessing just to be alive in a lot of ways, regardless of where you're at. Even though it might not feel like that, we have to recognize that. I want to say a whole ashe palabra to each and every one of you. Thank you again for tuning in. I want to thank you for taking that time out just to think about our ancestors and all those directions, what they represent. So today I have 2 guests instead of just one. And I'm very excited. I met these brothers at a training in Oakland. We were doing Joven Noble, which is a character development program for young people, leadership. Talk about a lot of values, palabra. We talk about connecting ourselves to our ancestral knowledge, not just figuratively, but in grounding. And it reminds me to also think, I want to remind everybody, also think about the indigenous lands that you're on right now and recognize them too, the struggles that they have. But anyway, I met these men there and I was very impressed, not only how they carried themselves and everything, but their sincerity and connection to the ways. And that says a lot. Sometimes it's hard just through everyday life to even think about things like that. You know what I mean? But in this healing journey, we often have to first make that connection and acknowledge all of us, all of ourselves in the good and bad and all that. So with that, I want to recognize these men. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves because they're going to do a better job than I can. And when you introduce yourselves, I want you to share a little bit about yourself, your family background, and your journey up to this point in life.
Yeah, it is an honor, man, and a pleasure, to be able to be on here today, just to, just to share space with you all, and share a little bit about, who I am, where I come from. I'm Ofonzo Staton. I'm from South Carolina, 46 years old. A little bit about my background, man. I was impacted by the system at 17 years old. I was charged with a murder and one that I didn't commit. So that was a little rough, really trying to adjust, man, and accept, what was going on in my life at that time. At 20, I went to trial and of course gave me a life sentence. Of course, I went into the Department of Corrections at the age of 20 and began a journey that was really unfamiliar, right? But with support, of family, friends, I was able to kind of sort of stick to, the basics of, who I was, man. We hail from a small town in South Carolina by the name of Bennettsville. I oftentimes told y'all that Joven Noble, man, that it was the capital of South Carolina, right? Yeah, man, I raised up there, my family, hails from that area, some parts of North Carolina. So that's where I was born and raised. Ultimately, in 1997 is where my life was taken. Like I said, I entered into the system at 20 in 1997. I remained there until 2020. When parole board granted me conditional parole. So I did 23 years and 27 days there. Man, I hated prison. In prison, I learned a lot. I applied a lot. Not saying that, prison has made me who I am today. I believe that I could have did very well, without it. That didn't happen that way, so I learned a lot. And of course, I applied a lot. I met a lot of good people. In the midst of my incarceration, I was introduced to Juan Gomez and John Pineda at Milpa Collective, where I am now employed, as a training and research assistant for this initiative called Restoring Promise, which is a collaborative effort between Milpa and the very Institute of Justice out of New York. But anyways, they gave me an opportunity upon my release to be an intern, to kind of do the work that I was doing inside, which was a mentor. We mentor 18 to 25-year-old young adults in this community. Me, I was at a maximum security prison, and it was an institution just a few months prior where there was a mass riot where, 7 men lost their lives and about 40 others was injured. So bringing Restoring Promise, to that institution was very much needed, man. 'Cause it brought a sense of a hope, a sense of newness, a culture that was needed to change. But anyways, I was selected to be a mentor. That's why I met John and Juan. And after I was released, they gave me an opportunity to continue doing this work. It's been really fulfilling. I'm grateful every day, that I'm able to get up, not be behind the walls, but still have that connection there, to assist, aid brothers and sisters back there. Yeah, I'm going to stop right there, man. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some other stuff that'll come up a little later on, in reference to that, right? Yeah, again, man, it's an honor and a pleasure, and I'm very appreciative, Cisco.
My name is Rafael Brown. I was also impacted by the system. I got incarcerated at the age of 16 years old and went to prison at the age of 17 for 2 counts of murder. I was a kid. I was easily influenced. I wanted to bet, just really be associated with my friends and be accepted. I got caught up, in a situation at a party. Doing that course, I take full responsibility for my actions in the involvement, but I never seen anyone get shot. I did shoot that night and 2 people was killed. I'm raised in Dillon, South Carolina, but I also was raised in between Dillon and Bennettsville, South Carolina. I had a great family. They loved me, they supported me, and they was there for me. They gave me a lot of advice that I didn't take at the time. I ended up being incarcerated in 1995. In 1995, I was sentenced to 2 life sentences, running concurrent. And when I first started out, it was very hard for me to adjust to the prison culture. I was young, I didn't understand what was going on, and I really didn't accept the time that I was given. So, I was still being influenced by my surroundings, and I wanted to even be accepted in there. During my course, I had met Ofonzo Staton, which we was familiar with each other, when we was on the streets, but we was living 2 different worlds. He was an older brother. I was a little bit younger than him. We interacted while we was there and became great friends. He became a positive influence in my life while I was there. But, during the course, we were separated here and there during our journey. In 2007, I was sent to Allendale Correction Institution where I was doing my bid there, and they had this thing called prison industry, and I started working in there, but it was never a place to be satisfied at. I was never content. I always knew, it was more than this to life, and I wanted to be free. I really wanted to be free, but, I didn't really have any direction of how to get there. It was brothers that was put in my life while I was incarcerated that led me to the direction to go to the law library, schooled me what was important and wasn't important about my education. Coming in so young, you really, really wanted to still try to live life. And that was like a hard adjustment, trying to live a life as a young man in prison. I got involved in this character initiative at Allendale. They was calling it CHEW. And it was the ideal to give brothers that was incarcerated with life an opportunity to receive character traits, life skills, to build up a resume for parole. And, that was everybody's desire, to get home. So during my course, I became a mentor in this program. In 2017, it was a riot that happened at this institution called Trenton with the young offenders. And they brought them into Allendale. And they chose some guys that was there that had been impacted at a young age to move in with these guys, share our life with them, and hopefully, we can curb their behavior, and hopefully they don't have to go down that same destructive path that I went down. And so during that course, I kind of found my purpose. I found my purpose of being able to give back, try to how I affected the world and didn't know at that time. I didn't want these brothers to have that same impact on life. My job was to share my life with them. I lived with these guys for 4 years, and not only did I learn from them, they learned from me, and we'll be able to journey together. And through that course, I made a great impression on their lives. I'm still in contact with a lot of these brothers today. It was fulfilling for me. It was really fulfilling for me because, it gave me direction. It gave me a sense of direction, a sense of hope. And I felt that in my life, every time one of these brothers went home and they changed their perspective on life, they was taking a little piece of me with them. And so that was always my story to them, bro. Every time you go home or one of your brothers go home, maybe if you take a little piece of me each time when y'all go, maybe I'll be free. And in 2021, I went up for parole and I was granted parole. And it was one of the greatest feelings in the world to have my life given back after it was taken from me. It was just like, it was mind blowing to understand that that opportunity was present. And, you know, like as Zoe, that's my brother. And when he got out, you know, we stayed in contact and I was still in. So he always told me, man, you know, there's work out here for you. You know, I'm doing some work right now that you're currently doing. You know, I want to bring you in, bro. I was excited about this conversation that we had took place for us for over a year. And then when my opportunity presented itself, he told me, he said, man, you know, when you come home, I'll be at that front gate waiting on you. And he was. You know, bro was there waiting on me. Him and my little brother, Farrar Brown, they was there when I exited the gate. He was recording. And once I exit, he introduced me to John and Juan and told them about the work that I've been doing. And they gave me a 6-month intern position and see, you know, like what was going to be my dedication to this work. And it was very fulfilling to be able to still be in contact with brothers that I left behind that I felt that was deserving of their freedom. But I always told them, you know, like, man, I would never forget about y'all brothers and I would do everything I possibly can to help, you know, change the system. And I was granted that opportunity. I went back in, you know, it's just a great, you know, fulfilling job that, you know, as a training research assistant for Member Collective and, you know, partners with Restore the Promise to be able to help at the starting point to change their living conditions and also, you know, put them on a path to being able to see Zoe and I, you know, out there in the world and the opportunity is present for them. So with that, you know, I'll pass it back to Cisco.
I appreciate that, man. That's a beautiful story. Finding hope when a lot of people don't see that hope, which is very important. So let me ask you a question, both of you. What does healing mean to you?
Yeah, healing for me, man, is a necessity, man. I was always taught hurt people, you know, but heal people, heal people. Within my incarceration, man, I chose to be better, right? Because you can easily become bitter, you know, so I just wanted to be better, man. I just took different precautions, man, you know, not to be that person, to not have ill will or hate or dislike, a great dislike for people that I may have accused being the reason for, you know, my downfall, right? You know, when you harbor on those things, man, you know, that it can be really, really detrimental, you know, to you and in the sake of your self-growth, right? It's imperative that we take that journey, you know, to heal yourself, man, from all of that stuff, right? I'm reminded, right? In prison, man, you know, you deal with so much loss. First of all, I lost my freedom, you know, and then on the course, you know, of incarceration, and you lose so many other things. You lose family members, man. You lose friends, you know, you lose loved ones, you know, and all of those things weigh on you know, because first of all, you're not there to be able to grieve with your family, you know, so you're stuck behind a fence, you know, you're stressed, you're oppressed, and you're just dealing with the wiles of incarceration, you know, which makes it 10 times worse. You know, we think sometimes, man, when we talk to a brother, you know, if I talk to Raph or, you know, I talk to another brother, you think that you're dealing with that thing that you call that hurt, that harm. You know, it wasn't until, man, I went through this program, you know, that was brought to the league called Men's Reentry, acronym for it is MRI, you know, so you look within yourself, you know, as that expert, you know, and see what needs to be done for your self-growth and for you to heal from those things, those traumas, you know, and those things that has occurred over the course of your years, man. So what we do a timeline, you know, within that timeline, you start from the day you was born. So I started from 1977 to 2015. You know, that was the year I went through the course, right? So in that course, man, oftentimes we think we deal, but we don't. It took for that program to come for me to realize that, man, I was still dealing with a lot of trauma, you know? In order for me to progress, you know, and to get to the point in my life where I needed to be, I had to heal. I took the necessary steps, man, to do this on this timeline and go through this process with this facilitator, man. And yeah, it was really, really emotional. You know, all these things from your past is brought back up. So you reliving it, you know. But I think that it's good though, you know, to relive it. Then you can focus on it, you know, and hear from it. You know, you have a better position on where you at and where you need to be. So to me, man, healing is gravely important, you know, to one self-growth, not just mine, but to anyone. Self-growth, man, especially if you or trying to achieve something and help someone. Because as I said in the beginning, man, heal people. I think it's greatly important.
Thank you.
Healing to me is breaking that broken and that deep trauma that's built inside of you from childbirth on up. You know, for me, there's a lot of things that you dealt with and I dealt with, you know what I'm saying, as a youth that we built around, and we created more trauma and more hurt as we grew. And, you know, that's the things that I lived on. And so I had to start there first. You know, all the things that affected me as a youth, all the things that I didn't understand, the conversations that I never had from childhood on up, you know, things that family didn't even know that affected me, you know, conversations that I never took place with my father or my mother or my siblings, you know, things that I didn't forgive them for, things that I didn't forgive myself for. It started with that with me first. And so, you know, during my incarceration, you know, when I went in, I really didn't even know how to communicate. So being that I didn't know how to communicate, that was one of my first steps to be able to find peace within myself, to be able to tell somebody when something that didn't make me happy, when something affected me or something I didn't understand. When I was able to do that, you know, that was a transformation of my healing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, being able to have these conversations with my mom, why things occurred the way they occurred, talk to my siblings and, you know, ask them about things in their lives, how they feel, and things that I never thought they even viewed. And so that was a course of my life where my healing started to take place. So dealing with that, those deeply rooted things in my life that affected me every day, that I even know that affected me according to how I moved and associated with people daily.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know what I mean? I tell people all the time, you know what I'm saying? I knew what bad was. I knew what bad was. So I was going to try good one time.
Mm-hmm.
And if it good for me, I was going to be with the best dudes that you ever met.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tried good, it felt good.
Mm-hmm.
So I continue to go down that path. I continue to respect people. I continue to have conversations with people that I normally wouldn't have. I continue to get to know people that I usually wouldn't talk to. You know, I tried to get to know, you know, like things that my mom experienced that she never shared with any other family member. You know, the way she raised us, you know, why did you raise us certain ways? And sometimes, you know, she went back, this is how I was taught.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the things that how she was taught, that's how she raised us. And so all these things that was affecting me, I had to go and dig with those inside and talk to myself at times. To let myself know, like, you're strong, you're powerful, you're a leader, you're a teacher, you know, you're not a follower. You know what I mean? You don't have to be accepted. You know, you can be able to move forward in life with just yourself. The more things that was broken away from my life that was negative and wasn't, you know, productive in my life, positive things came and helped me be able to move forward in life. Healing with me was like, you know, I really, really had to dig deep in with myself and deal with my personal trauma to be able to live and be that person that, you know, I'm really supposed to be. So, you know, that was healing to me.
I appreciate that. So in that process of, you know, kind of making changes in your life, what was that one pivotal moment? Because there's always this perception about being locked up, right? That, you know, the way the movies portray it or the way they kind of talk about it in the hood, that you have to run with the car the whole time you're there. There's no time for you to be good because of the politics. What was that pivotal moment? You know, I know you were in these groups that kind of planted the seed in your mind. I think ultimately a lot of people want to do good. I remember even me and my homies would be chilling on the corner talking about us getting jobs, us doing this. You know, it was all talk. We didn't actually, you know, a few of us did, but not everybody did, you know. But what was that moment in your life where you're like, you know what? This is where I'm going to make that change. And did anybody push back on you? And how did you navigate that? Because there's a lot of young people listening that they're in that very same position as you at that moment. And they're trying to decide, who am I going to be, you know? And what was that aha moment for you?
This is always a hard one for me, right? Because it's not the first time that it has been asked, right? Truthfully and honestly, I really can't even tell you, you know, when an aha moment hit me that I was going to change, right? I wasn't a bad kid, you know. I didn't hang with the wrong crowd. I did hang with a cousin, you know, that was a little bit older, that was a whole lot older than me that I shouldn't have. But, you know, running with the in crowd, that wasn't me. I wasn't a dope boy. I wasn't a gangster. I didn't tote guns. I wasn't a fighter, man, but I would fight, you know. But you know, I wasn't a bad kid, man. You know, so the mindset that I took into prison was that same mindset. I was gonna be me. I was gonna go in and I was gonna try to do what I can do to get myself free. That was just my mindset. I didn't go in portraying to be, nobody other than who I was, how I was raised, right? I don't know if it was an aha moment, man. Being in prison is rough, though. I mean, and peer pressure, man, is always a mother, right? Especially with young people. When you go into a prison setting, especially nowadays, I can't say back in those days, because in South Carolina there wasn't a great a gang. It wasn't no gang affiliations back in those days. It was like sets, where you're from, upstate, lower state, PD, there was sets, so it wasn't a gang affiliation. It wasn't like now, when kids go in order for them to survive, they'll get down with one of these gangs in order to, just to have that protection. When I came in, man, you have older guys that kind of take you on the wing and tell you the do's and the don'ts, the rights and the wrongs. I don't know, man. There was just never a time, though, that I felt like I just needed to make a change to be better, because I was really, really bad. And my son used to ask me that all the time, man. He was like, man, I used to get on him a lot about his affiliations, the company that he kept, right? And he's like, well, I ain't doing nothing. I mean, man, you ain't got to do nothing. You know what I'm saying? I ain't did nothing, but look where I'm at, And he's oftentimes asking me, how did I do this? Or how did I get here or that? How did they charge me? And there's always a perplexed conversation, because still yet to this day at 46, 29 years later, it's still hard for me to express to an individual how I got caught up. You know what I'm saying? When you can pinpoint where you was and who you was with, during the time frames in which, this crime that you was accused of, it's hard to pinpoint, well, why it happened to me. I mean, we do know that, things happen mysteriously. I'm a believer in Christ, and I believe that God has a plan for every man. Sometimes we don't understand that plan. This is just one I never understood. Did I have a purpose there? Probably. Did I serve it? I think so, because I'm free now and I'm doing work here versus doing work there. Other than, my spiritual walking more, trying to be more righteous, treating people, the way that I want to be treated. That's kind of the only changes that I've made within who I am in the setting, in prison. I did change that, because I'm a firm believer in people treat you the way you want to be treated, so I always want to treat people respectfully. So yeah, man, I did do that, so that's about it for me though, man. But yeah, that wasn't really never a aha moment for me.
Well, I mean, I think in a lot of ways you're probably one in a million. You know what I mean? That because there are a lot of people go in there, and which is beautiful though. Don't get me wrong. I think it's beautiful because you still maintained who you were, that integrity throughout that time, which is an accomplishment, because a lot of people do give into the life that's there. You know what I mean? Because they're like, well, a lot of the veteranos of my neighborhood or in my community, they would tell you, here, go along, do this. And you resisted some of that and you just kept your road, man. That right there is a very important concept. And it's a good message for the young people, that you don't have to go along, that you can maintain who you are no matter what. You're righteous, you treat people good, and have palabra. You know what I mean? That's, how that is for us. Like, in that concept of being a man of your word, and not bringing harm to other people, those types of things. Yeah. So why don't you share some, Rafael, how was it for you when you first went in? How did you deal with that situation? And what was there a pivotal moment for you that kind of changed your mind?
Yeah, it definitely was. When I went in again, I was 17 years old. My first 10 years, I was in the cloud. You know what I mean? I didn't even know, like, you're in prison, but, you don't know you're in prison, because all the things that kind of like afforded to you, I went in there and I started adjusting to prison because people created in my mind that I had to. When you have no hope, no direction, you know what I'm saying? You got people telling you like, man, it's a possibility you gonna die in here, bro. And I met, like I was probably like one of the youngest persons at the institution I was at. Probably was the youngest. But there was other guys there, 18, 19, 20. And I started hanging out with the bad boys, still doing the same thing that I was doing on the streets. And I took that role for like maybe 10 years, man. And it was just one day, man, we was in the room and we was just talking and laughing and we were smoking. And, one of the brothers was like, yo, man, bro, it been good, man. I'm like, what is this guy talking about, man? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
he's like, yo, man, I'm like, yo, man, what you talking about? He's like, yo, man, I go home next month. And I'm like, wow. Because when you were in prison and you at a young age like I was, and you hanging with young dudes and they wilding out, and you thinking everybody in the same situation you in, so you're not caring about what's going on.
Mm.
And so, you know, at that moment, I was like, man, this dude said he going home next month. So I started trying to figure out like, how many other brothers in this circle right here are going to be leaving me. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, I want to go too. It kind of like sunk in, man. I was like, man, it got to be more than this than that. It got to be more than this. So, you know, doing that course, man, you know, like I was like, man, I got to start doing something that's going to be more productive. And it was challenging, you know, especially when you start being accepted as this guy that is tough, you know, that hang around a certain crew in jail and y'all carry a certain name. I start to, you know, start trying to go and educate myself and, you know, start to surround myself with different people. People look at you different. People feel like you're not that cool guy no more. I mean, like, what is the purpose, or like, what are you trying to receive? Or there's no hope for you. There's no direction for you. You know what I'm saying? When you can't even see the light at the end of the tunnel, you know, and you still trying to go on a course that even if it don't work, I'm gonna try it. I lost a lot of people that consider themselves my friends doing that course. But it was a few brothers that said, man, I understand. I understand what you're trying to do, man. I understand why you're in the law library. I understand why you're getting your GED. I understand why you're taking up these courses, you know, because that's going to determine your future.
Yep.
And so that was that aha moment for me, that the ones that didn't accept the change and didn't support me, I knew you didn't have my best interests at heart. The same ones that was on the street with me. You was only using me for your benefit. And when I wasn't beneficial to you anymore, I was an opposition to you. And so the ones that was really for me and supported me and could help me go on my journey, I was able at that time, you know, like I said, I was able to take a little piece from a lot of positive guys that was in my life, that was, you know, working every day in prison when they didn't have to work. You know what I mean? Studying every day in prison when they didn't have to study. You know, being respectful when they didn't have to be respectful. And as I took a little piece from each one of these brothers, it helped try to create a me. And I started loving who I was. And I started looking at myself every day and appreciating me. So, you know, that was my aha moment that, you know, started me on my journey.
Well, I think what you said about how, you know, you made these changes because even though you didn't know it was going to give you your freedom, you still wanted that and you were still working towards it. And people didn't accept that, but through your own love of yourself, that's what mattered. And that's a very important lesson that I hope people are listening to, that, because sometimes when you are fed up and you want that change, a lot of times people, they react like, oh, you're leaving me just because you're not ready. You know, I tell them, you know, I know a lot of people who've been through similar things, and, you know, you had a lot of courage to do that, you know, and I appreciate that. So let me ask this question. It's going to throw a wrench, but I think it's important because a lot of times when people think about healing, they think, oh, if you're healing, you're soft, or you're this or you're that. And being good's hard, as you know. It's not, it's harder to be righteous at times, you know? And so what are the misconceptions about healing, and how could we reframe them so people that are in similar situations, or whatever situation that might be, how can we reframe healing to be something that's viewed as strong? Because a lot of times people don't look at it that way.
I guess you can look at stuff like that as a weakness, you know, especially, man, when you get before a group of people and you have to break down and cry because you reliving, you know, those things that you have been through, right? Crying is purging to me, man. It's not a sign of weakness. You know, it is a sign to me of strength, right? We are taught as young men, you know, not to cry. That real men don't cry. I'll be the first to tell you, man, that's a lie, because ain't nothing soft about me. You understand what I'm saying? But I cry, and I cry often if I need to. There's nothing wrong with it, man. And I think that's the great misperception what healing is, you know, because people feel like that they can't be vulnerable, you know? If you're vulnerable, you're soft, you know? If you cry, you're soft. You know, being in touch with your vulnerable side, man, I think, you know, it just shows all that much greater your self-growth, you know, on who you is as a man. And I think that, us, like in today's society, I think is very, very important, that's something that we teach, to our young men and women for that matter, coming up, man, because if not, all the things that they internalize, as Ralph stated earlier, as that we deal with, if you internalize it, only thing it's going to do is just worsen. You're going to end up doing something to harm yourself, harm other people. It's our duties, though, man, to really kind of, to get that mindset, get them to change their mindset and how important, it is. And also just how important it is, just be in touch with your soft side, man, I mean, it's cool to cry, I mean, I can cry and in an instant I can laugh, because I feel just that much better. You know what I'm saying? So that's the great misperception, man, to especially young men of color, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just a great mystery, man. I guess, something that has formulated over the course of years based on just what our people went through, Telling your stories and telling your harms and your traumas, to someone else is a sign of softness. Yeah, I greatly beg to differ.
I appreciate that, man, because you're right. Being vulnerable is hard, but it feels good when you get to that point, when you could just get out what you need to get out and carry on instead of holding it. They have that resentment. You carry it with you. You start giving it to other people who don't deserve it. Giving it to people that you care about because you can't handle your business otherwise. Right. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. How about you?
Vulnerability, man, is like, and healing is freedom, man. Like, you have a chance in life to be yourself, to be your true self, to stand on what you believe in, to not worry about being judged, to be able to walk and be proud. I remember this lady had seen this guy walking, and she's looking at this guy, and we was in prison in the visitation room, and she said that this brother here is walking like he know where he going. And I wanted that. I wanted to have that, to walk and knowing where you're going is freedom. It's vulnerability, it's strength, because you don't care what nobody around you got to say, how they say it, when they say it, because, you're going through your process, and you done been through that process. And so, that vulnerability make you be able to communicate with people better. It make you be able to, accept, that you're not always right. Because when you are that tough guy that always got to prove yourself, you never can, be wrong. You're not going through healing, and so that healing give you a course of just freedom. And that's what it was for me. It was a sense of freedom. It was a sense of peace. Once I received that peace, I refused to let anyone take that from me again. It's a beautiful thing to be able to go on that course and that journey and being able to accept it and not willing how you're being judged or viewed.
I definitely agree. And it's so hard for men in particular. I mean, and some women too, right? A lot of women hold things in too. We have a lot of times we think, oh, they're more vulnerable than us. Some are, but not all, especially those that are doing time. A lot of times, a lot of women do time because of their partners or because of this and that. And they don't get the same thing. They don't get as many visits. They don't get as much money on their books, things like that. They have a tough time too. So even, for men, it's hard for us to be vulnerable in a good way. But it, like you said, it is one of those things that it releases you from that ego. And that's hard because men, we have hardcore egos, man. And that's one of those ones where it's hard just to be like admitting you're wrong when you are wrong and just saying, hey, maybe I need to look at this. Even though I've been away from that life for many years, I still struggle with that, and I'm very conscious of the ways and all this, but I still struggle with that, so I appreciate that. So I'm going to ask you this question regarding, because your connection with Milpa and the cultura that Milpa has at their organization, basically how do different cultural and spiritual awareness, how did that affect you? And how can we build on that for other people? Because a lot of times people are not open to other situations, right? Or other cultures in a lot of ways. They'd be like, oh, that's not me. But I've experienced where I look at other cultures and be like, there's always a connection somewhere, but you got to build that connection. So what do you think about that?
Man, I can remember, right, being first introduced to, Juan and John's culture, right? As I stated, man, they came to the institution where I was in 2018 to do a cleansing ritual, a cleansing ceremony of the unit where the brothers was killed at. We're in a circle. We're doing the circle process, You put the altar, in the middle, and they get to burn these things, man, and sending the cedar around, you push yourself off. I'm like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? I don't know nothing about this, bro. They're like, man, I mean, dude's like, oh, just try it, so man. I mean, I don't know about what I know. I never was introduced to that, so I was reluctant, man. To engage into that, right? But as you said, man, somewhere down the line, these things are connected, right? And there's a connection somewhere between what I believe and what your culture is. You know what I'm saying? It's just that, man, we are so closed, right? And closed-minded to who we are in general, as a people. Traditionally, we read the Bible, we go to church, we praise, we worship, and we fellowship, with other people in the community, in the church. That's all we see. What we don't realize is what the rituals and the culture in which our people, our ancestors, in which, how they conducted themselves, during their times here on earth, right? I mean, when you talk about the drum, the drum, the beat to the drum, man, African people have been doing that for years,
Mm-hmm.
They call it peep in. They've been doing it for years, but we're so traditionally taught, about how we should live, how we should praise or worship that we don't know these things, So when I was introduced to it, like I said, I was reluctant, man. Like nowadays, man, I'm keeping some cedar in my bag, man, smudge myself off, right? Because, as you read your Bible, man, these are things that they did in those days.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I keep some in my bag. I got a feather, that I got from the elder in San Antonio that I keep in my laptop bag. So anywhere you see me with my laptop bag, I got my feather. So when I go into these prisons, man, where I spent a lot of my time, when I come out of there, I try to feather myself off. So I'm utilizing these rituals, these cultures from John, the things that John and Juan taught us, things I seen them do. But not just seeing them do it, but going back, man, kind of doing the knowledge to it to see what the significance is for myself, to see how it ties into what it is that I believe. You know what I'm saying? But culturally, man, we're just at one of those points, man, where, we traditionally do things one way. That's the only way that we know, because my moms and my dad and possibly my grandmother, are not aware, of these other cultures and how they conducted themselves, or how you can kind of sort of tie them in and loop them into what it is that we believe, or how we worship, how we pray, and things like that, man. So it's just a lot of times, it's a lack of knowledge, the Bible says a man that has a lack of knowledge, we perish, right? So in order to incorporate these things into how I believe, and what I believe, I just took it upon myself, man, to just do the knowledge to it. You do the knowledge to everything else, man. Just do the knowledge to that and see how you can incorporate it. But reluctantly, man, that's what I was, in the beginning. But now I'm very much open to those other cultures, man, because I do know that there is a lifeline, that connects all of them.
Beautiful. I like that. I think a lot of people get closed off. I mean, surprising enough, even within our own culture, people, because of colonization and things like that, they don't want to recognize this piece of ourselves that also can be freeing. It's not in competition with other religions or ways. It's incorporating. That's the way I view it. And I appreciate that that you could admit that as a seeker of knowledge set you free too.
Absolutely.
Just wanting to learn.
Absolutely.
Rafael?
Definitely. Like he was saying, man, you feel what you don't understand. And, coming in, like I say, I was born and raised in the church. And, a lot of things are implanted in your mind that certain things is witchcraft, is all kind of stuff. And then, when you coming in and you looking at this, you like, okay, man, what am I dealing with? What I'm about to partake in. And it is frightening. But what I loved about Juan and John and the other brothers and sisters, they didn't try to change me. They didn't try to change me at all. they still wanted me to embrace, they know I'm Christian. They still wanted me to embrace my life. And so all the things that we have all done, they tried to show me the interconnection, that this is your root. This is where you came from. And we want you to understand more about yourself before you understand about us. And so the more they tried to make me understand, it made me dive deeper into my roots and where I came from. And again, having that association with, like Zoe said, that interconnection of the drum, and how that beat connects us together. And, again, we went and, I also have my feather, but I also was gifted a bag, so a brother here met me and he was like, listen, man, they told me that when I find the right person to pass this off to, it automatic connects to you. So, of course, he gave me a pouch of rocks they from Africa. And, I keep them, like every time you go back into the institutions, man, you wear these, for the protection, for the healing, because I'm always the type of person that I want to see, I want to know what's going on around me. And sometimes you need protection of things that you don't understand. And that's what they did. They created a pathway for me to understand what was going on around me. So you wouldn't embrace what they had going on. You would embrace what you came from. They would embrace your roots, your understanding, your knowledge, and what you was truly seeking. And everything that I base now is like, you want to go back to the roots of it. You want to go back to the roots of what you have been created from to make life more easy. And that's what we have, we have lost in life. We have lost so many common ways of life until we embrace these new ways of life. And we need to go back and to understand where we came from and what we actually, was created from to find some peace in life.
Yeah.
So, it was a beautiful thing to me, but in the beginning, it was very like scary. Me and Zoe was together a lot. We talked about different things. You were like, oh, bro, you're like, yo, like, let's try to walk in this together, bro. And then, like that, y'all brothers go out, y'all say y'all prayers, and we did a sweat, and what was very unique about this sweat was when it come around to you, they want you to pray to what you believe in. You know what I mean? You want you to believe in what you serve. Bring in your family. Bring in your history. Bring in your knowledge. You know what I mean? Don't just accept mine because I say that it's right for me. I want you to accept what's right for you and what works for you and build on it and grow. It was very unique. It was powerful. And it's continued to help me build on life and travel in different ways that I'm even trying to, learn even more.
That's beautiful. You kind of gave me a segue into this next question. How do we create supportive environments, right, that fosters healing, not only individually, but community? And how do we build this like collective healing culture? I mean, that's what La Cultura Cura is about, right? It's about creating a healing culture within the institution, within our families, within ourselves. Like, what's your take on how do we build on that,
I mean, it first starts here with me or with us. I mean, you walk it like you talk it, right? People see how you carry yourself. They see where you come from to where you're at. And I say that because, man, just the other day, I was talking to my aunt, right? My cousin came up, man, and he said, "Oh, who's outside? Who's outside? Who's on the porch?" We was talking. He said, "You know what, man?" He just, "Oh, man, I admire you. You admire me, you know?" He said, "Man, you came out, man, you doing real good, man." And he said, "Man, I just admire you, man." Hearing stuff like that come from people, because they see your growth, right? It means a lot, because they see you, Allowing people just to see who you are, man, I think it starts there, right? How we can really do it in a community, really just what we have learned, what we have applied to our lives, man, just to go abroad, and just teach our people, the best that we can on any platform that you may get. Like now, we're trying to strive to do stuff in youth facilities. This is the greatest platform, to teach these things to brothers 14 to 19 years old, so they can possibly get it, instill it, apply it, go back into the community and do the same thing that we just did. It's like each one, you teach one, and you hope that cycle, you hope that it continues to trickle down, man, from person to person, generation to generation, man, to show, how important healing is, not just for yourself, but your community, your society, but most importantly, your family. Because we all, have people in our family that deal with things, man, and, it's just a shame. But shame is a robber, man. We have to really teach these things, man, and be adamant, and stand firm on our teachings. I mean, we're living examples, man, that healing is possible. So when you go into any setting, you tell your story. I tell my story. It's healing all in the story. So how did you do it? And I'm able to tell how I did it, and there's a track record and I'm able to give it. I think, man, ultimately that process, it starts with me.
I like that. Ozzy from the training, right? Yeah. Ozzy talks about that the shortest line between two people is the story, right? Having that story, because there's so many connections, man. We get caught up in, who we are, where we grew up, but we're more similar than not, in a lot of ways, So I appreciate that. I really do.
Yeah, for me, man, it's like, at first, of course, to start with you. But of course, like me, I wanted to, like bring it into my family. And I feel like, once I bridge that gap for me and my family to understand, to be that walking and living example, you can affect other people through your family member. I feel like that's the bridge. Mm. That's the bridge. When you coming out and you've been gone for so long, people come out and look at you in so many different ways. But when you be this living example that you are going to continue to go and do better and be better because of the healing and transformation that you have received and your family see it. Like I tell people all the time when I deal with the youth, do you understand or know that you're somebody's role model? You got to understand that it's somebody that's believing you, watching the way you walk, watching the way you move. You mean, like, to some people, you're the coolest person ever. And you can be destroying their life or you can be lifting their lives up. And it's not easy because sometimes you try to accept some of their ways to try to bring them into your ways. Mm. And sometimes you'll get led back into where you came from, trying to build that relationship to let them understand, like, I understand where you're at, but this is where I'm at. And I'm going to partake in a little bit of your lifestyle to introduce you to my lifestyle, and you end up getting lost. Go to the track that you're supposed to be on and what led you to be who you are today, and you'll start affecting lives that you never knew. Even some of your friends, your family friends. And so, you know what I mean? And that helps you to be able to be that bridge to interacting in the community and bringing it to the community. Because the more people that you affect positively, the more effect you're going to have in the people that's around you, the people that you continue to grow with, the people you continue to move with. Some going to accept it, some won't. But the ones that do accept it, it's going to affect so many people. And then, that bridge for your community, because the life that we have lived and been through, the things that we have experienced, that's a pathway already. But just to be able to continue to walk your walk as you out each and every day, that's going to be an introduction to your family, to the community, and be able to grow to build on something bigger.
Well, I appreciate that. There's a lot of times that even my own homeboys, when I made the change, I made friendships that I still have 30 years later. I still have these friendships. And my other homeboys, I always say, I'm here for you. I never hide. I never duck from them. I'm here, but I just ain't down with what you're down with right now. You know what I mean? But if you want to, anytime you're ready, I'm right here. You just walk towards me and I'll meet you. That's how it works, man. I appreciate this conversation because I feel like there's so many people that could benefit from your knowledge, because a lot of people would say, oh, that can't happen. It still blows me away. People believe that people can't change, that healing isn't real because for whatever reason, they're tripping on it, right? Because they're not ready, or in a way, they just don't like us and don't want us to succeed for whatever reason. But with that, what counsel or advice would you give to other people that are right now, they're ready to make that change, they're listening, they haven't made that first step? What advice would you give them?
Step into it, man. Change, if first start with yourself, so if it's something that's tugging at you, something that you want to do, regardless of who's looking, regardless of who you may lose, change is ultimately for you. It's to make you better. Step into it. That's ultimately what you have to do, man. Regardless of anything else, man. You always have to be just the best version of you as possible, right? Rafael used his saying earlier: you done did bad for so long, that's what you do. But when you do good, choose good and see how it works.
Yeah.
So ultimately, man, you just can't keep doing the same thing expecting different results, right? So you just got to put that work in. You got to take that step forward, man, and allow the change to be the change. Change is good too. any change is good. It don't just have to be, you coming from bad to being good. Just any change that you're taking that's positive aspect is always a good change, man. And don't be afraid of it. You got to step into your calling, step into your purpose. And with that, change comes. You just got to do it, man. Yeah, got to do it.
Thank you.
For me, I heard something before. It said, start where you at. Start where you're at. Like most people try to make changes to become something other than what they are.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start right where you at, continue to just move forward in life and know where your mind say you want to be at. I was told one time, sometimes you got to create a 5-year plan. And in your 5-year plan, if things that come in your life don't line up with your 5-year plan to be where you want to be at, that means that it don't supposed to be in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And during the course of your life, that 5-year plan gonna change.
Yeah.
But make sure the things that you're doing apply with getting where your destination at. And so, that's how I try to walk. It's things that change in my life daily. But if it's not lined up with my plan, I'm gonna find an exit route for that. Friends, families, associates, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna find an exit route for you. It may not be, the ideal what you think it is. I gotta cut that off.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta cut that off. So start where you at, and you'll be able to move forward. Because you trying to start where somebody else at, you asking for destruction. Destroying yourself, because you don't know how that person got where he was at. Just start where you at.
I like that. That's really good advice. Because a lot of people think, well, if I accomplish this one thing, then I'll change. Or, that's even simple things, like even trying to do good things. They'll say, well, they don't feel worthy of it for whatever reason. They don't feel like, well, I can't do that. Or, simple things like even going to church or going to ceremonies, they'd be like, well, I don't think I'm at the point to do that, because in their mind, they don't think they're ready, or they don't think they're worthy. And you're two good examples of you're worthy when you're ready. And you got to just step into it, right? Start where you're at, and that's it. That's important. So as we wrap this up, I want to give you guys both the chance to say where people could learn about your work, and if they wanted to send you a message of some sort. It's up to you what you want to share. But anyway, I just want to give you the opportunity to share so people can learn about your work and somehow contribute in some way. I'm not sure, but at least being a part of it, in some way, because I think your story is very inspirational. And I want to thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. This is exactly what the kind of things that we need to talk about, how really the approaches to your mindset can really, really change your life in a lot of ways.
Yeah, man. I greatly appreciate you having us, Cisco, man. It's been a pleasure, man. But where you can view some of our work at MIPAcollective.org. Just punch in Restoring Promise. That's what we do. We work for the initiative Restoring Promise, which is a collaborative effort with MILPA and the Vera Institute of Justice. So if you punch in Restoring Promise, you'll see the work that we do. But also, you can just Google my name, Ofonzo Staton. You'll see some of that work that I have done, the conferences that I've attended course of the last year and a half. Yeah, tap in, man. Support MIPA Collective. Great group of brothers and sisters over there, man, doing community work, doing national work, that's really impacting young adults, just across the board, man, in California, in the counties out there that they work in, but also these institutions that we go in across the country. Yeah, man, tap in, support the collective. Yeah, man, as we continue to reach, brothers and sisters behind the wall, as we continue to try to, assist, aid, and advocate, for them, and their freedom, as well. So yeah, man, tap in.
Definitely. And same platform. We work on the same platform. So, we also on Facebook and Instagram. So MIPA Collective, tap in. But we also on the horizon, to doing some work in South Carolina. So be on the lookout. We have the youth here in South Carolina that, is ready to be able to make this transition. These brothers are excited. We're excited. Check us out.
Please do.
All right. I appreciate both of you. Again, support the MIPAcollective.org. Go to their Facebook, the Instagram. I strongly support the organization. Long time ago, I did a ceremony for MIPA as a part of their kind of pulling things together. That's what I really appreciate Milpa. They include the spiritual aspect. Healing is not just physical, mental, and emotional. It's also spiritual. You got to get your heart right. You got to get connected, deep rooted, and create your own milpa, your own garden, your own ways to grow not only yourself, but people within your community. So I want to thank you guys again. And I want to thank our listeners again to the Healing Generations podcast. I also want to bring up, if you want to learn more about the National Compadres Network, it's nationalcompadresnetwork.org. And I also want you to hit up the Brotherhood of Elders Network. Hit them up, search their name. All the Babas do excellent work in the Bay Area and other places. Again, if you want to reach out, tell us about story ideas or lift up somebody, please do that. I want to just say, a whole to everybody in palabra.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.